Welcome back. It's been a few months since we've uploaded a video. Apologies, but we've been sailing. And for us, sailing comes before talking about sailing. But we're glad to be back and sharing our new stories and adventures, both good and bad. But all is well, so here we go. Today we'll wrap up Season 2 and give a brief preview of Season 3, so please stay tuned. This video is a little longer, so please grab your favorite beverage and settle in. We hope to show you some things that'll be interesting. We left off last video in Mandal on the south coast of Norway with a weather delay, a black water tank issue, and airline tickets on a countdown to returning to Canada for the winter. We have about 180 miles to go and 10 days to get there. Not a problem. Except, once again, for the weather. We have a few alternative routes. We can't make this route as the Limfjord Canal is too shallow in a few spots, particularly the western third of the canal. The second alternative, direct to Denmark, also looks okay, a quick trip, but hurricane remnants are approaching. We're going to be in the direct path of the storm over the next couple of days. So we look for a storm-proof route to get to our destination, which is Hals in Denmark. The third alternative is longer, but we can sail during the storms, making miles by staying inside the islands. A lot of islands. A lot of turns, steering between them, around the rocks, and hugging the coast. Marie spends hours planning and plotting with hundreds of waypoints over the next week. And we're off, saying goodbye to Mandal, heading for Kristiansand today. We get a beautiful sunny day, even if it is a little chilly. We pay close attention to our route and are rewarded with nothing wrapped around our prop. It's been a very good season in this regard. We've got some tight quarters in here, but the 25 knot winds and 2 meter seas are not here. We'll take it. There are many beautiful homes, for us, reminiscent of the Thousand Islands area of the St. Lawrence River back home. And we tiptoe, occasionally out into the unprotected Denmark Strait when the bridges between the islands are too low for our mast, but mostly we're inside. Enjoy the ride and the houses. The journey is the destination, right? It's beautiful here. And a few very tight passages with no extra room to port, to starboard, nor under the keel. Nice routing, Marie. It's still blowing 20 knots, but we're making good time as we don't need to fight the sea state today in here. We wind our way into Kristiansand and have a quiet night with time for a walk around this old fortress town.
Still October 15th and we're now coming in from the fjord. This is Kristiansand as we approach. And there you can see some sticks. So that's where we're headed.
We found a berth on the fuel dock, but it's closed for the season. Bummer. Same for the pump out, also closed. Sailing in October nearly guarantees open berths, but also limited services once you get on those berths. The next day promises to be a long one, so we're off the dock at sunrise heading to Winterizing. And if you can pronounce that name for me, I'd very much appreciate it. More beautiful homes, and lots of boats. Sometimes with interesting mooring systems. The bow here is tied to the dock and the stern to a long pole. Seems to be an efficient way to get a lot of boats on a short dock with a lower investment than other methods.
And all these pictures of the little town called Arendal, or Arendal.
To live on it. It's not a lot. Close to 2,000 krona, no, 20,000 krona a month, right?
Never know if we're gonna make it. Oh, we made it under the bridge.
We knew we were going to make that one. That's 35 meters. 34, sorry.
Really? You knew you were gonna make that one?
I knew I was going to make that one. I wouldn't have scheduled us to go through this way if I thought we weren't going to make it. Here comes the big foot.
Our air draft, or in other words, the height of our mast that needs to fit under the bridge, is about 19 meters, roughly 60 feet. The passage planner isn't worried this time, but I always am. And another fisherman dropping his pots, keeping us on our toes today.
We're still moving along the coast of Norway here, making our way north towards Oslo to cross over to Sweden. But it just strikes me on this beautiful day, be it eventually, how serene this country is. I'm sure it's not everywhere, but for the majority of what we have seen, this is it. People live by the water, they have boat houses for their boats, which, by the way, some of them I wouldn't mind living in, and that's it. They just all surround themselves with the outdoors. It's incredible. In a good way. Okay, so today is October 16th. I know this day, and I can remember the date for a change, because it's our anniversary, our very first one. We spent the day going through the fjords here of Norway. We're headed up towards Oslo. We're not going to Oslo. And it's been a sunny, crisp day. Beautiful. Anyways, we're going to a place called Winterizing. I don't know, maybe I butchered that. But it should be great. I'm looking forward to getting tied off here shortly. This is it. And I'm focusing on, you can see very carefully, there are some boats back there. Anyway, additionally, we've been entertained for the last couple hours with these guys. And they're pretty numerous. Not sure what they're doing in Norway except going for a lot of gas. Anyways, good day so far today. Here we continue now.
And we land in beautiful Winterstad for a short stopover. The marina was a little shallow, but we were able to find a spot along a wall. With little tide here, it wasn't a difficult tie-off at all. I'm almost getting tired of saying it, of being repetitive, again. But this is a beautiful country, and it never disappoints. Except, no fuel or pump out again. But that's a minor concern so far. We'll use a couple of our backup jerry cans, and we're all set for a couple of more days. Inside passages are pretty tight, so sailing is very much constrained. We had a beautiful sunset and sunrise, and we're moving again. October 17th. We've got 8 more days until we catch the train to the airport in Copenhagen. We keep on moving. Today we're on to Larvik. It's only about 40 miles, but we'll be back out in the swell, so we head out early. But at least we'll get some good sailing in today. We were close haul most of the day and enjoyed the sunshine, even if it was a bit bouncy, with lots of rocks to avoid. Getting into Larvik Harbor required some careful attention, but once inside, it was very calm because of that. The harbor is well protected. both by nature and historically by some medieval fortifications, like many of these towns and cities. Human history sure has a lot of conflict and defenses. Marie, as always, getting us ready for the dock, placing fenders on both sides since we often don't know where we'll end up, so she's always got us ready for any eventuality. We found a spot on the empty dock across from the rescue boat, and we finally found a pumpo that was still in service. Whoop whoop. We can finally correct our black water tank issue and have a free and clear season ending.
Maybe what we do is we put this in here, fill it with water, let it sit for an hour, and then suck it out and do it again. And next time we leave it for overnight.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
As you can tell, I am focused on the task at hand. It's nice to see that owners here have found a way to make their sport affordable. These guys are lifting their boats with a fixed hoist, so haven't the need to rent a crane, which back home costs us about $400 per hour, plus drive time. Way to go, Larvik Harbor. It's great you have this facility. It's a little difficult to see here, but during our walk we found this statue of a girl skating on a not yet frozen pond. Very nice. This is a huge harbor. Clearly there are many boat lovers in Larvik. It's a bit of a weekend vacation spot for the Oslo residents, so I expect that not all of these boats are owned by locals. The next morning dawns and we're off to Sweden. Wow, another country. It's a shorter passage, only 38 miles. However, we'll not be inside the protected islands, but it looks to be a very nice day for a sail. Before we get going though, snap back to reality, we start off with a second rinse of the Blackwater system. Priorities are priorities. It's an uneventful day, a smooth crossing, until we approach the Swedish islands. All of a sudden, the 60-foot cutter appears on a collision course going 15 knots or more.
Ask what their intention is?
They slow down as they approach us, and we guess that maybe they're the Coast Guard.
I don't know.
We're familiar with red and white Coast Guard boats back home, Canadian and American, and don't recognize these markings, but it turns out that they were the Coast Guard. They launched a smaller rib, and it quickly sped over to us, and they asked for permission to board. We haven't been boarded at sea before, so aren't sure if there are any other options than to say yes. So we allow them to board. We say yes. We keep moving forward slowly, as that's the only way to steer the boat and maintain control, and we tow them along behind us, closely shadowed by that big cutter. Marie handles the paperwork requests while I steer. These guys were very polite, wanting to see our passports and our ship's papers, and gave us a clean bill of health. They are out monitoring the compliance of their local lobster season opening, and were surprised to see a U.S. registered boat, particularly not during the tourist season, so they stopped out of curiosity. They even recommended a pizza place for us to try at our first port. Unfortunately, they wouldn't stamp our passports.
All stations. This is Sweden traffic with gale warning and reputation of a navigational warning. Please listen to medium frequencies or VHF.
And we're beginning to worry about the 90-day Schengen limit. We should squeak inside of it, but it's still a worry. Overall, a very pleasant encounter from the Swedish Welcoming Committee. We've got 2 miles to go. Raso is a tiny harbor that quickly becomes shallow, but we were able to snag a berth out towards the end of the pier and settle in. We contact the harbor master by telephone to pay our fees, but he seems somewhat surprised that they have visitors in late October. He'll try to send someone down to collect the fees. And unfortunately, the Coast Guard recommended pizza restaurant is now closed for the season. We're off the dock at dawn again, this time running between Swedish islands as the weather builds offshore. By the way, nobody ever came down to collect the fees. I guess it wasn't a priority for them. Some tight passages between the rocks, very much like the Norwegian islands. The residents have certainly made the water part of their lives. You may remember this chart from our last video. We're now in the middle of October, and those early October hurricanes remnants have made their way to us. This is the last blue sky we'll see for a few days. By early afternoon, the wind has picked up, and we're on an exposed coast. We've got 25 knots of wind on our nose and whitecaps. We're fighting them, trying to make headway. At one point, we're revving our little diesel, Perky, up to 2600 RPM, and we're only moving along at 1.5 knots. Apparently, we're not going to make our planned mileage today, nor our planned harbor. We have to find another alternative, and after several are considered, Marie finds Fiskbåkskill. It's 5 p.m. on October the 19th, and this is what we're facing. The North Atlantic is very energetic. We are here. And the yellow line shows a separation between two large lows, two storm systems, very energetic. And it's heading towards us. You can see winds in the 30s and even up to 49 knots out on the North Sea. Our 25 knots of wind today will be over 40 knots tonight. So we'll hunker down, as it turns out, for 3 days. It's cold. We have single digits in the afternoon. It's very windy, and we have frost at night. We have 2 more legs to our journey, across down to the left to Denmark, and then down their coast to the Limfjord Canal. This is the sea state on the morning of the 20th. 3-meter seas between Sweden and Denmark. With high following winds, we might have tried this crossing, but only maybe. With the 3-meter waves, we won't. And since the winds build through the night, 30 to 40 knots, the seas will continue to get bigger. We won't leave here tomorrow. Sunday the 22nd looks like it may be okay. We'll have a couple of chilly, windy days in Fiskbåkskill Harbor and visit the village and pick up a few provisions as well. It's our first time in Sweden, and this is a pretty small town. There are narrow streets lined with historic homes, a couple of marinas, as well as a spa. We even had a sauna at the end of our dock. By the way, that last word on that signpost, how would you pronounce that one? I'm not going to try. The weather did calm on Sunday, the 22nd, so we're headed out. We're catching the train to Copenhagen on the 25th. So we've only got 3 days left to get the boat to its winter storage, and we're off. We'll do it in 2 days, 2 hops. First to Skagen, and then on to Hals. It's a great day, but we've got nearly 20 knots of favorable wind, and we'll make the most of it. Here, we're sailing at about 6.5 knots, and it's a good day. Gray and damp, but we're sailing and making good time. This is what it's all about, the journey, the sailing. Today, a nice broad reach. There's quite a bit of traffic in the Denmark Strait, so we're glad that we don't have fog today. These triangles on the chart plotter are ships. They're quite close to us. We're at the center of that circle. This one, the huge cargo ship, Figaro, will cross our path behind us. The pictures don't do him justice. He is 230 meters long and 32 meters across, or about 750 feet long and 105 feet across. Our little boat's only 42 feet.
Okay, Marie, whatever you do, do not stop here. No, don't stop here either. Keep going. Or he will chew us up and spit us out. This is a traffic jam out here on the Denmark Strait. We don't want those boats to hit us.
He's very imposing when we're sharing the same space. He can sail at 17 knots, so we'll close up any gaps to us rather quickly. It was dark by the time we landed in Denmark. New country, 3rd one this week. Woohoo! This is a huge commercial harbor with a small area for recreational boats. It was mostly empty, except for the seagulls, who left their calling cards all over the dock. But it was very well lit and a comfortable place to spend the night.
So this is October 23rd, and we're in Skagen, Denmark. Missed the run-in last night. It was pouring rain. These are our neighbors, these little bitty ships. I must admit, the northern breeze looks like a canoe. It's quite a well-lit and active harbor.
One more leg to go. October 23rd, on to our final port, planned for Mau, but as it turned out, it was 2 miles closer at Hals. I'll explain that in a minute. We're off the dock soon after dawn on another cloudy, damp day for our last sail of the year. Seems like we just got started. Since Skagen is the first major port in the strait after coming off the North Sea, it has a large anchorage parking area for ships. There were more than 20 ships here that we had to negotiate our path between. I'm wide awake now. The AIS alarm kept predicting collisions, but it wasn't ever a real risk, as long as we paid attention. It's another gray day and we can barely see our new country in Denmark. We're making reasonably good time today. Nearly 6 knots. 5.78 here on the chart. But unfortunately, we've lost the wind, with only 5.1 knots at this point, so there's a lot of motoring today. In fact, it's been a typical sailing season for cruisers. Many days with too much wind, several with not enough wind, and a few days with near perfect winds. Enjoying the journey. We see something curious on our plotter. A search and rescue buoy. That's interesting. That's new. Perhaps it's for training. Then we see this vessel, moving at 102.2 knots. That's 117 miles per hour, boys and girls. What kind of vessel is that? And will it hit us? It turned out to be the SAR helicopter, and they were doing some rescue exercises with that boy.
Today is the last day of the sailing season. It's October 23rd, I believe. And we're sailing south along the eastern coast of Denmark. Just at the start of the Limfjorder Canal, there's a marina, Mau. We're going to pull out and put the boat on the hard for the winter. We've got 5.8 knots of wind behind us. We've got 5.8 knots of wind behind us. A few people chatting in another language on the VHF radio. By the way, most of the conversation's in English, all the places that we've been. But every once in a while they speak in a native language. Norwegian, Swedish, Scottish, and now Danish. It's a calm, calm day. So 50 miles of moving slow, nearly 10 hours, then we're done. So let's enjoy the day for what it is. It's been a good season. It's been cold, wet, windy, but it's been safe. All the systems on the boat have worked. Nothing's broken. And neither are we. We've gotten our work done and we haven't gotten broken. So that's an improvement over last year. Hey, Marie? Good job.
But this little town is called Hals, which in German means throat. So this is the throat to the Fjord now. So today is probably the last day. Well, I'll see you when I hold it on and breeze out of the water. And it's been a challenging sailing season. It really has, but I'm sad to see it go, as I always am. This year, I'm pretty sure she's going to be safe and toasty though, and everything's going to be copacetic with her. I'll miss Jill and Steve not taking care of her and reporting back to us all the time, but we'll see her on May 20th.
Welcome to Hals. We pull in here, raise the Danish courtesy flag, and meet our boatyard host for this winter. And they say, give it a try. We might be able to get you into our harbor tonight down at Mau. So we cast off again and make an attempt to enter the tiny harbor at Mau 2 miles into the canal as the sun starts to set. Unfortunately, we hit the silt at the bottom and we can't get into that little harbor. We have to retreat. We go the 2 miles back to the dock at Halls, land after dark, and get ready for a hectic day tomorrow. We normally take a week to winterize the boat. We've got a day. We remove the sails, and the crew from LP Yacht shows up early to pull our masts. Their machine tells us that our mast is 500 kilograms. That's about 100 more than I had estimated earlier. It's a sturdy rig. Thanks, Baltic. We've got it ready for their arrival, pulling the cotter pins and slackening the shrouds and stays so it all goes smoothly and quickly. Next to the Danish Navy boats. And wouldn't you know it, the wind returns today, adding a little challenge to lifting and stabilizing that 19-meter, 62-foot mast, all 500 kilograms of it swinging. We're trying to securely grab a mast that is on a boat that is bouncing. There's an example here. The risk comes when raising the mast just a little while the boat is bouncing because they can hammer into each other. And it's off. Now to lay it down onto the 20-foot trailer. Yep, I said a 62-foot mast on a 20-foot trailer. It's a dance, a ballet. These gentlemen are masters at it. First, they protect the bottom of the mast from the pavement with a bucket. Then the tricky balancing of the long mast on the short trailer. Marie's in charge. And I get distracted by the Navy's underwater drone. Do you think they'll lend that drone to me? And there's the ferry that will bring our mast across the canal to Mao. The ferry is 27 meters long. Our 19 mast will fit on that 27-meter boat. Barely. Once the mast is loaded, we catch a later crossing, and our friends at LP Yachts show us their facility. This is the property at LP with our mast resting comfortably on that small trailer. It'll soon be hoisted up into the rafters, and the breeze will be parked underneath it. Nice and cozy indoors this winter.
Well, it's a cruddy day here in Denmark, and we're about to leave the northern breeze, floating in the water, as well protected as we could get her. This is what it looks like. It's just crappy. It's raining and blowing.
Sadly, we left her floating for the first time ever. We can't get into the small harbor across the canal until there is either a spring tide or favorable winds to fill the canal and give us a bit of a more tide than it normally have. They only get 40 centimeters here, and we need more than that. The plumbing is winterized, the sails are off and stored, and we vacuum packed all the soft materials inside the boat. We've done all that we can do. LP Yachts will move her the final 2 miles and haul her out without us. It'll cost a bit of money, but so would have changing our flights. That would have cost money as well. So we make the plan with LP. Sadly, the next morning, she's left floating, and we're off to buses, trains, and planes home for the winter. Several days later, she was safely hauled and stored, and we'll see her in the spring. So to wrap up the season, it was a fantastic year with the breeze. We began in Scotland with new rigging for our furling Jenniker, learned what to do and what not to do when sailing into Ireland, saw amazing sights in Scotland, heard some great music, and we were blessed to see the dolphins and gannets fishing together. And learned a lot about the ancient settlements on the Isles of Orkney and Shetland. We crossed the North Sea in October to Norway, made our way along the coast of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. It was a summer of weather. We had more than a dozen storms, typically every 3 to 4 days through 2 months, September and October. But we weathered them without any incidents. A fantastic adventure and so interesting for us, and hopefully you've enjoyed following us along through these videos. Sometimes scary, sometimes inspiring. We loved it. Now on to Season 3. Our plan is to see the Baltic Sea and visit all the countries around it. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and Germany, and maybe beyond. We'll skip our original plan of visiting St. Petersburg, and we're a little worried about Kaliningrad, especially with GPS navigation under threat. So stay tuned, and we'll soon start loading videos for the 2024 summer season. Looking forward to sharing our journey. Sincerely, Aaron and Marie.
Somewhere beyond the sea, somewhere waiting for me, my lover stands.